It said travel broadens the mind. But before it did that, travel simply kept us alive. Long before passports and planes, before maps and itineraries, there was instinct. The earliest humans moved not because they wanted to, but because they had to find food, to find safety, and to find tomorrow. Travel, in its truest form, began as survival, and maybe in some quiet way, it still does. I am Jaideep Padalwar, author of Engineering the Australian Dream and host of your podcast show, Life Unplugged with Jaideep. In this podcast, we look beyond the surface of the things we take for granted, the forces that quietly shape our lives. And today, we are talking about one such force that has followed humanity since the beginning of time: travel. Imagine the world tens of thousands of years ago. No roads, no cities, no borders. Just vast landscapes, forests, deserts, oceans. Our ancestors didn't travel to explore, they traveled to live. They crossed rivers to find food, they climbed mountains to find water. They followed stars because those stars might lead them somewhere better. Every journey was a question mark, every step was a risk, and yet they kept moving. Travel back then wasn't glamorous. It was a decision between life and death. But it was also the beginning of something greater: connection. As humans moved, they met others. They exchanged words, ideas, stories. Trade began, cultures mixed. Civilization itself was born out of the art of moving. So, when we talk about travel today, with our tickets and check ins and comfort, we are actually continuing a story that began with firelight and footprints in the sand. At some point, something changed. We no longer traveled just to survive, we traveled to know. Curiosity took over necessity. The human mind began to wonder what lies beyond that horizon is a question that came to everyone's mind. And thus began the age of exploration. Marco Polo tracing the Silk Road, Columbus sailing into the unknown. They traveled not for comfort, but for discovery, for knowledge and glory. Travel began to make a new personality. It became bold, adventurous. It was no longer a tool, it was a calling. But travel also became complicated. For every voyage that brought discovery, there was another that brought conquest. Exploration blurred into colonization, wanderlust turned into power. Travel had grown up, but like all teenagers, it was learning who it really was. Still, the spirit of curiosity never died, because deep down, to travel is to be human. We have always looked at the unknown, not with fear, but with fascination. Then came machines. The wheel evolved into the engine. The horse gave way to horsepower. The world began to shrink. Trains connected cities, ships crossed oceans in days instead of months. And finally, flight. The first airplane wasn't just a machine, it was a miracle. It proved that the sky itself could be conquered. That distance was just another illusion waiting to be broken. Travel, once reserved for the brave few, began to belong to the many. Families migrated, workers moved in search of better lives. Immigrants, like myself, packed their dreams and left behind what was familiar, trusting that something better waits on the other side. Every migration is more than a change in place, it's a quiet act of hope. When I wrote Engineering the Australian Dream, I was really writing about the travel too, not the kind measured in miles, but the one measured in courage. Because every dreamer, every immigrant, every person who starts over, they are all travelers in their own way. Today, travel has become something entirely different. We don't move to survive anymore, we move to feel alive. Weekend getaways, solo trips, digital nomads working from beaches and mountain cabins. Travel has become our escape hatch from routine. When life gets too heavy, we open Google Maps. When work gets too loud, we look for silence in distant places. And we call it in many names: adventure, vacation, self care. But deep down, it's the same instinct that's been in us for centuries: the need to move, to rediscover, to breathe again. Yet, something about modern travel feels different. We take more photos, but remember fewer moments. We reach more destinations, but often without direction. We are connected to the world, but sometimes disconnected from ourselves. Travel today has become both liberation and illusion. It promises freedom, but often turns into content. We are no longer exploring the world, we are curating it. But there is another kind of travel that never shows up on social media, the one that happens quietly within us. It begins when we pause, when we question why we feel restless even when everything seems fine, when we realize that sometimes the longest journey is the one back to ourselves. This is the new era of travel, not across continents, but across consciousness. Some travel to escape their past, some to chase the future, but the wisest among us travel to meet the present, to sit with it, to understand it. I remember sitting at an airport, watching people rush from gate to gate. Everyone seemed in hurry to arrive somewhere, and I thought, what is the point of travel? What if the point of travel isn't arrival at all? What if it's movement? The act of going, not getting there. Because maybe peace doesn't exist at the destination. Maybe peace is the journey itself. Travel wears two faces: one is escape, and one of connection. We run away to clear our heads, but sometimes it's that very running that brings us home. Think about it. How many times have you left your city, your country, only to realize what you truly value back home? How many times has distance made things clearer than closeness ever could? Travel doesn't show us the world, it shows us ourselves, stripped of habit, comfort, and control. That's why we feel so alive when we are on the road, because we are reminded of how small we are, and yet how deeply we belong to somewhere vast. Every sunset looks the same and yet feels different because it's you who has changed. But like everything human, travel too comes with contradictions. For many, it's freedom, for others, it's privilege. The ability to move, across borders, across lives, isn't something everyone has. And sometimes, in chasing new horizons, we forget the weight of our footprints. Tourism brings money, yes, but it also brings imbalance. It can turn sacred places into photo ops and cultures into commodities. So the real question isn't where do we travel next, but how do we travel better? With humanity, with awareness, with gratitude. Because the world isn't something we consume, it's something we belong to. Every journey eventually ends. Every traveler returns to a home, to a memory, to themselves. And that moment, stepping back, unpacking, sitting still, that's when travel does its real work. It changes something quietly inside us. We don't always notice it immediately, but over time, we realize that we see differently. We listen differently. We live differently. That's the real gift of travel. It doesn't just take you somewhere new, it leaves you someone new. Maybe that's why we keep going. Not because we haven't found what we are looking for, but because the journey itself keeps revealing who we are. Travel began as survival, then it became discovery, then escape, and now reflection. In a way, we have come full circle because once again, travel is about survival, not of the body, but of the spirit. When life feels repetitive, travel shakes us awake. When we feel lost, travel reminds us that being lost is part of finding. And when we feel too comfortable, travel whispers, there's more. And that's what Life Unplugged is about too. Peeling back the noise, the screens, the routines, to reconnect with the raw, unfiltered experience that makes us human. So, if you are listening to this right now, thinking about your next trip, maybe pause for a second. Ask yourself, are you traveling to escape something or to discover something? Are you looking for a new place or a new version of yourself? Because here's the truth, no matter where you go, you take yourself along. The real transformation happens not when you cross countries, but when you cross comfort zones. Travel doesn't demand distance, it demands awareness. It's not the miles that matter, but the moments. Not the photos, but the feelings. The next time you set out, even if it's just a walk down your street, go with curiosity, go with openness, go with wonder. Because travel isn't an escape from this, it's how life escapes from routine. I am Jaideep Padalwar, and this was the Life Unplugged of Travel, another reflection from Life Unplugged. If money was about how we measure value, then travel is about how we rediscover it. Both, in their own way, are parts of the same dream, the dream we are all engineering every single day. Until next time, keep walking, keep wondering, and never stop traveling, within or beyond. Because somewhere, out there, or in here, a new journey is waiting.